så blir det, och även som en sorts vindbarriär. Och tanken med den här formen och det här...
In the area of food, we're just starting to plant the first gardens. We've planted now over 500 trees in the permaculture forest garden. We're just starting to think about our first investments in building up a geodesic dome greenhouse. And that is our best hope for year-round food production, is to have something in these cold greenhouses that'll be using passive solar heating. So those are some of the things on food. And then we've also completed the system for, as soon as we bought the property, we took away the flushing toilet and went strictly for the outhouse. We put in separation system in the outhouse, so it's a double-seater outhouse, but each seat has a separation, so we separate urine into one large container, or two containers, and then we separate out the feces, mixed usually with straw, into big buckets or big barrels, which we put a lid on. Those we then compost anaerobically for 6 months before we dump it out on a post and after post-composting in the air and turning that back into soil. So that process has just been begun. We have basically the composting systems functioning. We have also a kitchen compost, which also feed into this soil improvement system. We know what's right and wrong, and we're in a position where we financially could do something. We could dare to make some bold steps, which maybe other people on a tighter income couldn't have done. And I think we were also willing to make some of these. I mean, because we've been living in third world countries, and even living very makeshift, sometimes in Sweden, it's not that big of a step for us. It was a step. It was a step to move out here, but it wasn't that radical of a change for us to move out here. So I think we were capable of it, and we knew very well that what we should be doing, and we needed to do more instead of just thinking about it or talking about it or buying books about it, but to actually do some common steps, and also just to see that there wasn't enough being done. People talk about it, but people are not making steps which are perfectly feasible. It's possible to do all these things, but no one is doing it. And also, I mean, and the government isn't really encouraging it, and the private sector surely isn't going to come up with it either. They can sell the equipment necessary for this, but they're not putting together the packages to do this type of moving to a simpler, more sustainable lifestyle. Maybe at a personal level, there's different routes to moving to a sustainable lifestyle, but still on almost everything you can figure out what is the best choice possible. And of course you say, well, I have to compromise because my living situation, I'm living in a flat in the center of the city, or I have my job, or I have my 3 children. You have different limitations to what choices you can make. But I think it's we sort of know what we should be doing, and I think that maybe the thing that can complicate it is often we have different types of technological solutions where we can maybe keep our lifestyle and not have to make any sacrifices, and we can get some sort of technology to solve the problems so we don't have to change. And that type of thinking I don't think is very healthy. I think that you can embrace a simpler lifestyle because I think it can give satisfaction, both social satisfaction and personal satisfaction of moving to a slower a slower and a more meaningful lifestyle, where you're not where you get direct connection with the food you eat or the things you do, where you're able to repair and make your own house where you're living, where you have control over your transport situation, where you're not dependent on foreign, if it's fuels or technology which you really don't understand. So I think for me it's quite simple, but that there's a clear way where for truth. That's sort of a simple way forward. But of course we have a lot of decisions, small decisions every day, if to keep on that path. I don't really see that having an outhouse has to be a sacrifice. We also ask our guests to actually urinate outside in the forest and the bushes, and I don't see that as a sacrifice. I think that's actually part of quality of life, of really understanding that putting it back straight into nature, actually supplying plants with some nutrition, rather than to mixing it with drinking water and flushing it in some municipal system. That doesn't really, I don't see that as a sacrifice to have to go out into nature. I mean, sometimes it's raining and you run out quickly and you come back in quickly. I think that's actually been an increasing quality of life, having to go out and discover the stars are out, smelling the fresh air. And yes, sometimes it was snowing or cold, but I really don't see that that really wasn't much of a sacrifice. I think bicycling back and forth to town, it's also been in some ways a sacrifice from being in the center of town or using a vehicle. The children have used the bus quite a bit, but I'm quite proud when they take the bicycle, and we've tried to use the bicycle all winter long on a daily basis, and I can directly feel the difference in health for me of having that daily bicycle trip into town. And I think it also has a lot of, it's a good way to deal with stress coming home from work. So by the time I've bicycled home, after 20 minutes of bicycling, I don't come home with the office stress, etc. That's gone in the bicycle trip between the office and home. We realize that our approach is not attracting masses, and that's not so much to do with these aspects, I think, of having no flushing toilets, for example. I think that which scares people off the most is that we think there's a need to do things together, that you have to create community, you have to create a platform where people need to actually work together, and that's how we believe it's possible to actually offer a better quality of life, higher living standards at a fraction of the energy and resource use here, because we'll be doing things together. And that means trying to eat together as a community and trying to use common facilities like washing of clothes, even a large bathhouse, trying to use so much facilities in common so not everyone has to have a washing machine and a dishwashing machine and a kitchen and a bathroom. That these things can be coordinated together. So that's why we're looking forward to one common community house and a bathhouse to collect those as much as possible, which makes building houses much simpler. And I think that scares people. People would like to invest in their own dream house, have that as their retirement scheme and invest in that. But we think that, I mean, investing in part of a community is actually a better safety net than just in your own little house where you maybe have borrowed money at interest rates, etc., that you might not be able to handle, having to buy food, having to pay electricity in the future. This is a much more secure financial investment than traditional parcels that people would buy for building a single home.